Welcome to this week's episode of Gun Rider TV. We're down at Quick Draw Quality Pawn and Quick Draw Guns in Venice, Florida with Jack Schmidt, aka Johnny Custom Glocks, Johnny Glock. And we're going to learn about his triggers today.
You've got triggers that a lot of guys are making Glock triggers. A lot of guys are making Glock triggers that have light strikes and the gun doesn't go bang. Right. That ain't you. No. That's a huge difference between what's being peddled out there and your stuff.
Yeah, and you know, that's the very important thing for you to mention, because I started out in the self-defense field.
Right.
And I do have entire departments that run my triggers as duty triggers too, and that's a huge responsibility.
That's a huge, it's nothing but confidence in your work.
Exactly, and there has to be criteria, and you have to meet this criteria for the departments and their armoring, and they have to go bang every time.
You should change your name to Johnny No Light Strikes.
Yeah, really.
Tell us about your triggers, man.
Okay, so I start with all Glock parts. In fact, I just got an order today, so I get these from the factory. They're OEM. When they come in, they're pretty rough because they are stamped. They put them in a web and stamp them. If you've ever seen that process, which is good for me because then I can hot rod them and I can turn them into gold. But over the years, I started out just as an armorer, and what an armorer does is they replace parts, they change parts.
They fix guns.
Exactly. So they're putting a 3.5 connector in, they're doing a spring change, they're maybe dropping an aluminum trigger shoe in and whatnot. And I did that for a while, and that was the boss trigger, the very first one that I sort of came out with. Which, by the way, there's people that have over 100,000 running on that same exact trigger.
It's a good trigger.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good trigger for what it is. It's all the tenets of that I build on, and that's basically what goes into the duty groups, because you can't really manipulate the metal on those. You can't. You don't want to change too much stuff on them just for department regulations. They have to be within a certain spec. But then after a while, I was like, you know what? The main problem was I wanted to reach as many people as I could. And I found that with all these other parts, and you got all these kitchen table Glocks, Glocksmiths that are, and even people that have trigger companies. You know what I mean? They don't have the credentials. Like we were talking earlier, I'm a certified advanced armorer,
which is not an easy thing to get.
Exactly, it's not. The 2/3 of the people in my class, even though they were LEO and military, they failed. Yeah. They give you 36 guns. You have to take those things apart. You have to know like the 30-point inspection. You have to know barrel head space. I mean, everything. All kind of
a lot more than just replacing a spring, like an armor can do. Big step up.
Right, and they don't even let you sit for it unless you've been out in the field for about 3 years. That's kind of how how Glock does it. That's how they want it, because they don't want a bunch of greenhorns coming in, sitting in this class, and just it ends up being a blow off for everyone. And so basically, I have these competition groups that I make. You call me up. It was kind of not a mistake, but my web person bailed on me, and I don't have the time or the patience to do. I'm really bad with social media and things.
But we'll help you there.
Yeah, exactly. And so I just put on my website. I knew enough to get on there and say, look, I will serve you best if you call me.
Yeah, and explain what I want.
Exactly, because those are the kind of nuanced triggers that I build. That's how into it I am.
Yeah.
Now, I've been criticized about this on forums. And now, like on a lot of forums, I have to the moderators have to approve what I say first before it's posted, because I've alpha dogged so many people. Because it's the truth, if someone explains to me in a thread what their gun feels like, and I know for sure, because I'm visualizing it 3D in my head, that this cruciform is lying off the shelf. Yeah. The secondary, the horizontal safety shelf, and the drop safety is going to give. They're not consecutive. People think like if this trigger tab safety goes, the other two safeties will catch it. Not true. No.
Works in the system.
If this one goes, they all go. Yeah.
So tell us about your the different types of triggers that you offer.
Like I was getting to, I wanted to make them so people could have one thing to basically drop in their gun, and it was going to function as if I did the full Monty on it. And so basically a lot of proprietary changes I did, which is the next step after armoring, is actually working on the metal itself. Okay. Changing radiuses, changing angles, changing pivot points for where the trigger actually, so there's this thing called a fulcrum trigger. It's a misnomer. I mean, it doesn't really mean anything. It's just a selling thing. Right. If you're changing the fulcrum, you actually need the gun in your hand, because even though they're production guns, the tolerances and the margins are very small. Right. So that's what I did with this trigger group. So this trigger group you can purchase at a store, and I feel okay not talking to you. You understand?
Yeah.
Because
I'll be okay.
Yeah, exactly. I'll be okay. Everyone will be okay.
Sure.
It's a safe, consistent, predictable, reliable trigger that you're going to put in your Glock, and you're going to use the stock trigger springs in there. You're not even going to have to open up the slide.
Right.
You're just going to do the change of the bar. So that's why I call it the drop bar.
Okay.
Okay, so this drops right on in, and it works. And we put some in your store.
Yeah, we had a
Right-
gentleman that went to Bienville with it, and he loved it. Rocked it all weekend, no issues.
Yeah, we just dropped it in right in front of him.
And then up from there we have.
Up from there, well, we also have the slim line because the 42 and the 43 are the Rage.
Right.
It's built about the same. It's got a little bit more safety features just because those are pistols that are in your pocket. They're
Right.
pocket pistols, so I wanted to make sure I was staying within a different set of tolerances for that. So the slim line 42 and 43 are their own animal. And then you have the drop bar, which is for just about any Glock,
Sure.
any Glock out there. And then we get into custom triggers, which is basically...
Your bread and butter.
Right, yeah. So people will call me up and we'll talk about, and I have this on my YouTube channel, which is called Johnny Glock's The Persona.
Okay.
And, and we talk about the wording. You know, people say pre-travel, free travel, creep. Reset. How do you want it tactile? Do you want it popping? Do you want it aggressive? You know, a lot of people use those 6-pound springs that you get in like an aftermarket kit, and they don't realize that limits the reset. Does no longer come. It's very neutral. It doesn't come snapping back in your finger. So that's something that's not really. You don't really want that in your gun. You don't want a slow reset.
No.
Once you learn to shoot, you're shooting from
the
reset.
Yeah.
Exactly. So you want that backing right behind your finger and ready to rock and roll. And so it's issues like that you see a lot of people just that are following the forums.
So you're educating people before they buy.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay.
And I'm also getting a feel for the person, because if someone calls me up, and I have a couple of things that I can poke and prod to see where their level is. If they want like a 1-pound trigger, and I ask them a couple of questions, yeah. Even if it's for competition, you know,
It's
and
still light.
and I'll say, hey, how's your muzzle dive or muzzle flip? They have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm like,
Right.
look, we're gonna start you at 4 pounds. Trust me, we're gonna take you down from there, and you're not gonna put a hole through your leg.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, because you're still drawn from a holster.
Exactly, exactly. And we've all seen the video. I just shot my leg. Yeah. And this is a professional. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So basically, the video is there to help people understand what I mean by those terms.
Right.
So I say, like, watch the video so you know what I mean when I say this.
What's the full Monty worth? What is one of your custom triggers worth?
If it's a drop-in kit, it's $200.
Okay.
Okay. And if you want me, because we have an FFL here, a lot of people.
I want you to make it.
Okay, so if someone has me, I make everything, by the way. I have no employees. Every single thing is tested and in my hands.
But if I want to put my Glock in your hand and get a custom trigger from you,
it's going to be probably $250, $275.
that's still reasonable as hell.
Because what I'm doing is I'm working the slide now.
Right.
So where the sear meets the striker lug face, I'm now stoning the striker lug face. I'm bringing it up to about 1600 degrees and then oil quenching it. So that brings the walk roll factor up. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So I'm polishing that crust in. So you have durability, you have reliability, you have this beautiful poetic metal on metal. It's just like the one that you felt that just slides like
and I gotta say, his triggers are incredible. It's something I wish you could bring across through video, but you have to experience it firsthand.
Right.
It's worth a hell of a lot more than 270 or 250 or 275.
There's a video I have on my website, on my YouTube channel, about how I'll go into like 1911 carrying old school, gun shops, and they're all sitting around chewing tobacco bullshit and stuff like that, and and I know they're not going to buy any Glock triggers because they're just not Glock guys.
Right.
They're 1911 and that's what they do. But when I come in there with my triggers, I let them feel them anyway, and they know what they're doing. They size up on that trigger and they feel it and they'll pull it and then they'll go, well, I'll be damn.
But it's a plastic
now. Yeah, they're like, Jim, feel this trigger,
1911.
And then, and so to get someone, like an old, 1911 carrying guy to like smile with a Glock trigger, like to me that's success, hands down.
Well, I got to say you're an artist, and I love your work. I'm glad you're here in the Sarasota area.
You know what? That's another thing I want to put across, and you can see back here, like it's a full custom shop.
Yeah.
Yeah. And now we have collaborations with other people that are local. So we're doing Cerakoting, and that's the thing. People
Who does your Cerakoting?
Rick. And I wish I had Rick's card.
We'll get it. We'll have that info up.
Okay, so we'll put Rick's info up. He just moved.
And you're with Quick Draw Defense, and they have an FFL, and guns can be shipped here to be worked on.
Right.
Excellent.
Exactly. And
Excellent.
then we can do everything that you know, say the Glock store or ZevTech or any of those guys do. It's just a little bit more personalized, and it's local, and you know, you're not going to have to send it to customer service and wait weeks and get an answer.
No,
and
I
this,
can
that.
bring it over and hand it to you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And all the stores, you know, pretty much every gun store in Sarasota carries my triggers.
Yeah.
And so basically, and they know, I'll get a call from, say, you know, Brooke from, you know, the Bullet Hole. Hey, I got an issue with this. It's just, how do I tweak this? Oh, don't worry, I'll come down, because I like to get my hands on it. You know what I mean? Like, because I want to see what's going on.
Well, you got to
too.
support local businesses too,
Exactly.
even though you're national. How many of these have you sold?
Thousands.
Thousands.
I work with government agencies.
With some pro shooters who we shall not name.
Yeah, we can't name them. But some pretty heavy hitters, you know what I mean, that have found their way to calling me, and we've chatted, and it's always a great conversation because they understand what I'm talking about to begin with. So, like I said, when I break this down to pre-travel, wall feel, break weight, reset, quick, short, palpable, aggressive, positive, these are all characteristics that this trigger can achieve. You know, some competition shooters are shooting bullseye. They don't want a click. They want a very long, and then a rolling break, almost like a revolver.
Yeah.
And then they want the reset to be very thuddy, like a thud back, because they don't want to have, which is not my part. You know, I'm not the surprise guy. I want to know where, when, how. You know, like I want to command of this trigger. But this is what they want, and that's what That's what I do.
You've got pro shooters carrying your stuff. You've got police departments basically issuing these pistols with your mods to their guys who are out there in harm's way.
Right.
Brother, it doesn't get any bigger than that. And there's a lot of junk out there. Be wary and come and see Johnny.
It's good to have you.
Yep.
It's good to have you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for stopping by.
Go to your local shop and ask for Johnny Custom Glocks triggers. If they don't have them, get a hold of them.
Yeah, I'm really
God
easy.
bless, long live the Republic, and keep your powder dry.